Rice TVX, the mic's live wire. American Pitbull, real gold buyer. Sound money advocate, rights defender. In the crypto arena, he's the top contender. From the gritty streets of the digital age, Rice lays wisdom, chapter and page. Silver, gold, he stores only the bold. Land, life, and liberty, these values hold.
That's right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. About to get started. Take an opportunity to smash that like button and share this stream out.
Deep dive, knowledge revival. Navigate the system, critical for survival. Rice engraved like inscriptions on metal. Pitbull in the game, lead foot on the pedal. Land acquirer, a strategic mind. In the fight for freedom, he's frontline. Educate on rights, the law he'll explain. Chris Rice, the Pitbull, breaking the chain. In the arena where truths collide, Rice TVX, the certified guide. Silver and gold, land and rights. American Pitbull in the freedom fights. In a world of chaos, he's the calm in the storm. Teaching the masses, ready to inform. Keys to crypto, rights we cherish. His wisdom lights paths that others perish. Guardian of wealth, from digital to ancient. His legacy crafted, fearless and patient.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, I am joined by two very special guests. I am joined by Aaron Day from the Aaron Day Show. He is also streaming on his X and Rumble accounts. I'm also joined by Mr. Joël Valenzuela from Digital Cash Network. They've both been on the show before. We've all talked to Roger, the three of us, the three amigos, when it comes to this situation. And it's a very, very dire situation, and I felt like it was very important for us to do this video. So again, make sure you take an opportunity to smash that like button. It's greatly appreciated. If you're watching over on the X side, make sure you're reposting this, because again, it puts more eyes on this video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a minute since I went live. So again, give me that 5x5. I'm pretty sure everybody can hear me because my guests could hear me, but just give me a 5x5 and let me know that you can hear me. We are going to be doing a giveaway, which I will be talking about probably about midstream for free Roger coin. I will be talking about the project midstream. So make sure you are staying tuned for the giveaway, but I will give you a hint. Make sure you have your Solana address ready. I will have 5 winners and I'll tell you how you can participate. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in both of my guests today. I'm joined by Mr. Aaron Day from the Aaron Day Show and Joël Valenzuela from Digital Cash Network. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Great. How about you?
Great. I hate asking that question with more than one guest because everybody wants to answer at the same time.
Yeah. You got to like portion it out over time.
Differentiate it. Like, hey, Aaron, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
Doing great.
One thing I noticed we all have in common is the Hijacking Bitcoin book. At least the two of us. Aaron, you probably have it somewhere. There we go. All three right there.
There we go. So
Perfect.
again, I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm streaming on my X, my YouTube, and my Rumble account. Aaron is streaming on his X and Rumble account. Joe is joining us. I've got pulling up on screen right now. You make sure you guys, if you're not already following Aaron on the X side, you can follow him at Aaron R. Day. Make sure you're following his YouTube channel at Aaron R. Day, the Aaron Day Show. Make sure you're following Joël over on the X at the Desert Links. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, Digital Cash Network. He just finished up a live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about Free Roger and everything that's kind of going on with that entire situation. He got arrested not too long after putting out this book, Hijacking Bitcoin. And I encourage people to check out the website, hijackingbitcoin.com, and purchase their very own copy of the book. It's a great book, and it might be part of the reason, maybe the icing on the cake of why they decided to go after Roger. And now that he's facing 109 years in prison, unfortunately, because of allegations from the IRS, which to me is unconstitutional and shouldn't even exist anyways. But I guess let me go ahead and start with Joël. Joël, what are your thoughts on this entire situation when it comes to what's happened with Roger Ver?
Yeah. I would call it definitely a travesty of justice. Let me just start there before I'd say anything that sounds like I'm saying anything else to that. I'm not privy to 100% of all the details of the situation, but it definitely sounds like what I am privy to was very, disturbing as far as the way this thing was carried out. Now, as far as like, do I know, was there an actual, what was the reporting discrepancy, whatever, who cares? It's all in the past. Um, it's all in an era when things weren't very clear. And I wonder what it was. I wonder how much of this was targeted as far as, is this a crypto big fish they could make an example of? Or is there something about the freedom message that they're just like, let's go after him again for? But it was one of those things that makes me like, I would say pessimistic to a certain extent, because I'm a very optimistic person ever since I moved to the free state of New Hampshire about 11 or so years ago and got into crypto. And a lot of things in the world have been looking up over time. And I kind of have a lot of optimism for the future of the human race in a lot of ways. This was a big dent where I just say, like, look, this guy, he did his time already, right? He's in already got railroaded once, and then he just left the country and the citizenship. And that's somehow not enough. Like, it feels very depressingly totalitarian that someone could, try to do everything right, actually get in trouble for other things. Again, also not a problem, not for doing anything wrong, and then pay your dues and then try to get out and just still like keep pulling you back in. I don't know if there's not much. The only happy thing I could say about this is right now, Roger, as far as I'm aware, is not currently in custody anywhere. And that's like the silver lining. Everything else is very, very upsetting to me.
He's not in custody, but the ironic thing was he was arrested in Spain, the same area that John McAfee was arrested for same charges. But McAfee had some additional charges. So that was he's not leaving Spain. I know that. I invited him to come on to the show. I know he's kind of on a media blackout, but I still felt, because of what we're doing, I was going to give him the opportunity, if he wanted to join us, He did decline, but he did encourage people to sign the petition and get involved, share the information out, because he's done so much for the space, the crypto space, and freedom. And I think what you said makes a lot of sense, Joel. I think it was definitely kind of intertwined as far as what he was doing within the freedom movement as a voluntarist, libertarian, and sharing those viewpoints, sharing the viewpoints of sound money. And then what he's done throughout the course with cryptocurrency, which just amplified the freedom stuff. It was a way for him to almost push the freedom stuff in a more legitimate way, in my opinion. So, but I do want to play that video here in just a moment. But before I do, I want to get Aaron Day's thoughts on this whole entire situation, because I know you're highly, highly involved with this. You might have even created this website. I'm not sure.
Well, it's a community project, so I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of people working on it. But I've learned a lot about this, and the more that I've learned, the greater the travesty becomes. To be honest with you, like when this first started, I had interviewed Roger, just as I think Joel had as well, and maybe you right before he was arrested. And I've been talking about CBDCs, and I've been talking about the fact that the government's cracking down. And they'd already been arresting other people. And so, but this actually still took me by surprise. I remember when I saw the headline, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Because of all of the people that I thought would get arrested, he was actually not high on my list. So it takes a lot to, shock me in terms of government overreach at this point. I think, after being at Ian Freeman's sentencing hearing and everything else. And so initially I started to raise awareness because I was concerned for his life when he was actually in prison, based on what happened to McAfee when he was actually, like, there was this blackout period where no one knew what was going on. Like, he was actually arrested, and then nobody knew he was arrested for like a week. And then nobody could get any information about what was going on. So there was this event in DC, an Enemies of the State event. And we tried to raise awareness of it, and then he was out on bail. And then my assumption when he got out on bail, and by the way, he has to check in like every other day. Still,
that's why he can't leave Spain.
And he can't leave Spain. And so, but my honest thought at that point was, he'll just settle, right? They'll, it'll be extortion, right? He probably doesn't owe. In fact, he's probably owed a refund. But you know what? In this process, during this time period, Michael Saylor negotiated a tax issue. FTX settled a tax issue for literally pennies on the dollar for billions of dollars of liability. So once Roger was out, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm not worried about it. It's just a matter of time until it gets settled. And then a couple months go by, then 3 months go by. And then I start to learn more about what is going on with this situation, which is that this has been going on for years. It's not that this just started right away, but basically they were kind of fighting it out a bit, and then a long period of time went by, and I think Roger thought it was just, they decided not to pursue it anymore because it was ridiculous, right? I think Roger was probably thinking, hey, look, it's been all of these years, and he did pay taxes. He made his best efforts. He hired one of the best firms in the country to make an estimate. And so all of these months have gone on, and he's never been offered an opportunity to settle. He doesn't even know how much they think he owes. He's not been presented with an opportunity to actually settle anything. So he's literally been sitting there for now 6 months with there's no actual progress on the case. And when you look at McAfee's situation, McAfee was in Spain for 8 months trying to exhaust every single avenue to block extradition.
Block that extradition.
And within 24 hours of losing his last appeal, he ended up dead. So the more that I've learned about this situation, the more horrific it is. And hopefully there's more information coming out, soon about this. Like, I don't have his legal documents. I've read all of the publicly available stuff through Pacer and everything else. But I mean, he's probably very close to being extradited. Like, we're probably talking a couple of months, unless he manages to beat that somehow. But obviously we know Spain is not a big fan or advocate of liberty or crypto based on.
And they have a very slow legal system as well too. So that's not the best either. I learned that with the McAfee stuff. The thing with Roger's situation is, yes, he expatriated. He paid his personal, I don't know if you would call it an exit tax, but there's a certain amount of tax you owe for a certain amount of time when you expatriate. He did all that from what I understand, because when this first happened, I reached out to a guy that I interviewed who used to be a special agent for the IRS, a gun carrying guy. He quit. This guy, Joe Bannister, you may have seen him in the freedom space, Aaron, I'm not sure.
I've heard the name. Yeah.
He quit back in 99. He quit, I think it was 99, but he quit the IRS because he did some research and found that taxation of labor, not all the rest of the taxes, but taxation of labor was unconstitutional. He took a oath to the Constitution and felt it was it conflicted with his oath, so he quit. He brought this information to his superiors and such and quit. Now, I sent him some information. He did some digging, and what he had told me back from my memory was this has to do with his businesses. When he expatriated, apparently, and I don't know why, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but apparently he didn't move his businesses outside of the United States. And the United States is saying he's responsible for taxes on those businesses. He didn't move out of the United States. So it's not personal. Then the other thing, and I'm just trying to give a little bit more of a, not devil's advocate, but a bigger point of view of what's happening. The other thing is, I think from what I'm understanding without having specifics, is his attorney or attorneys don't seem to be working in Roger's best interest. Have you heard anything about that?
I don't think that's the case. So my understanding of it is this: they were going after him for, yes, you have to pay your exit tax, but they're going after him for stuff from 2014. Let's go back to 2014. In 2014, even by the IRS's own admissions, there wasn't clear guidance on taxes regarding Bitcoin. It wasn't entirely clear at that point in time whether it was a currency, whether it was an asset. And then to make matters worse, Mt. Gox collapsed. So if you were basically saying, hey, Roger, you've got to sell all your stuff and then pay a tax on it, then the amount of Bitcoin that Roger owned, if he were to dump that on the market after Mt. Gox collapsed, the amount that he would have is zero because it would have literally tanked the market. So this weird situation of going back and saying you didn't pay enough. Well, based on what? Based on the liquidity of the market, based on the dynamics, he overpaid. Like, there's no way that, like, you have to do some really magical thinking to think that he was going to be able to sell all of his Bitcoin at the market rate, at the volume level. I think it was like 69,000 coins a day or something was the volume at the time all of this was going on. So that all happened retroactively. The part with his lawyer, as I understand it, is, and this is actually probably the most egregious part of the case, the prosecution raided his lawyer's office. So attorney-client privilege is actually a sacrosanct thing. Like, we all believe that we can rely on attorney-client privilege. His was explicitly breached. His lawyer's offices were raided, and documents were taken. And then they are trying to use those documents against him, even though those documents show, from what I understand from Robert Barnes, and there's a clip in here. I'm not a lawyer either, but Robert Barnes apparently is up to speed on the case, and he's a well-known constitutional lawyer. So apparently they're trying to use this illegally seized information. And Roger had actually appealed that. He'd appealed the attorney-client breach all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court refused to look at it. They didn't judge it, but they refused to look at it. They basically let the clock run out on that. So this is why this case actually has a huge impact for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're in crypto, if you're an individual, a small business, or an international business. If the government can breach attorney-client privilege, that means you can't rely on counsel anymore. That is a fundamental, important part about this case. Another important part about this case is that, again, they're retroactively applying the law and trying to figure out after the fact what taxation looks like for something like this. And so there are a lot of facets to this case, and the more that I learn about it, the worse the situation becomes.
I didn't know some of the things that you had told me, and that's the reason why I wanted to have the three of us together. I figured we could, there was some information that the three of us wouldn't have known that we could put together and kind of get a fuller picture about what's happening, because this has a lot more of an effect than people realize. It's not just an attack on one individual. I mean, the same thing has happened with free speech and doing what they did to Alex Jones, and then what happened, after that, back, several years ago, when they were taking him off social media as an experiment to see how people are going to react to what took place. Now, I do encourage people to make sure they're signing this petition. The shirt that I'm wearing right now, I got at Bitcoin 2024. It's Free Ross Day One. They also have Free Ross Vote Trump, but I wore the Free Ross Day One shirt because Donald Trump has promised to commute Ross Ulbricht's sentence, because basically he's not going to get out of prison at this point, and this allows for him to get out of prison with time served, and for a nonviolent crime with a clean criminal record for the most part. It also said something about pardoning Julian Assange, pardoning Edward Snowden. So we're asking to have this thing signed so that Donald Trump can be aware of what's happening, and I think we got the 4,000 signatures that were wanted, but we definitely want more signatures. So everybody watching this needs to sign it and share with some friends. So again, I'm going to be doing a giveaway for 5 individuals to win 1 million free Roger coins each. That's a total of 5 million. I want to tell everybody how you can do that. I'll share information on that in just a moment. Again, make sure you have your Solana address ready. But what I want to do real quick, if you guys are cool with it, I want to play that video that was created in regards to the Free Roger campaign so people can get a little bit more of an understanding about this as well.
I want to tell you about my own story about being tortured in federal prison in the United States.
Roger Ver, unfortunately today he got arrested.
Free Roger.
Free Roger. The real reason that I actually went to prison is because I was busy saying things like the things that I'm going to say in this video. Taxation is theft and war is mass murder, funded by theft.
Roger, Bitcoin Jesus himself, was a true pioneer.
Here you've got one of the most independent people in the world preaching and teaching people to individually empower themselves around the globe.
He's been very supportive of the work we do.
He's also an inspiration to a lot of people around the globe.
I couldn't express any more of how great of a person he was.
In 2014, Roger Ver left the United States. America apparently is the land of the free. You should be free to just leave.
The United States government considers you to be their property.
Roger paid millions of dollars to the United States government, and they're saying now that it's not enough.
You read the quotes from his lawyer, it's like, this is the evidence of someone trying to comply with the law.
He did everything according to the book.
Nobody's ever gone to jail for that, ever.
The DOJ is actually using the Bitcoin Jesus term. They're literally going to crucify Bitcoin Jesus.
Just because some people get together and write down words on a piece of paper and call it a law, that doesn't alter morality one bit.
They're using the Trump case as a template for how they can go after any dissident.
This is very scary, frankly, 10 years later.
Government and central banks do not want this story out there.
The truth doesn't bend to whether or not we like it being the truth or not.
Roger's a good guy, and we all owe him a lot. It's really sad.
To say that he is instrumental in Bitcoin would be a radical understatement.
He's really believed in Bitcoin for the reasons that people should believe in Bitcoin.
It disgusts me from my core when I see government murdering people around the world. And Bitcoin has the power to undermine everything they're doing to people around the world.
Is it a coincidence? The only guy that's ever been criminally prosecuted on an exit tax interpretation is the guy that was exposing the intelligence community's attempts to infiltrate the Bitcoin movement.
There's nothing we can do to change the past, but we can work together to change the future.
From this moment forward, I'm on the same side as Roger.
Free Roger.
It's as crazy a case as you can possibly imagine.
All right. So again, I encourage everybody to make sure you're heading over to the website, freerogernow.org. If you have not already, sign. That would be greatly appreciated. And once you sign, then make sure you're sharing this out with others. If you do sign, I would encourage you to take a screenshot of that, because that has something to do with the contest, which I'll be talking about probably in about 10 or so minutes. Do you have anything you guys want to add to what we saw in the video?
I guess I could add a little bit of perspective on the, it's not, Roger's the latest in a series of victims in this case, where it's was one, probably the most egregious one I've seen so far. In a supposedly free society, we should expect, fair and equal treatment under the law. And there's something very clear for anyone who's been paying attention, which is there is a certain fair and equal law in the US that applies to most people, I guess. But then at some point, there's some ways where you could run afoul to it. And they, as they call, throw the book at you, but not even the book. They throw the extra book at you, what's outside of the book. And for example, Russell Brick and his multiple life sentences in prison for running a website is one of those first egregious kind of points where you could tell that that's not an equal interpretation of the law, even if you don't believe that the laws themselves are just to begin with, which absolutely, that's great. That's also a great point. But you could see that this is outside of the scope. And then you start to see other things such as obviously Alex Jones, where of all the news outlets that have said some kind of a thing that could be interpreted as not accurate, right? They've reported inaccurate facts in some way, and even have caused, reputational harm or whatever, knock-on harassment, whatever you want to call it. And all those people that just don't even get charged or no one goes after them, versus going after Alex Jones is just one bit. But then it's like the complete and utter ludicrous destruction of everything he's ever worked for. It's very clearly an attack. It's lawfare in the perfect sense of the term in that way. And then, of course, with the former and very likely future president, if nothing crazy happens between now and January, the same exact thing. And it almost seems like there's an explicit targeting of people who can have a massive impact in change, where the Silk Road proved that you can have permissionless commerce. And then Alex Jones proved that you could have alternative and highly successful media, and that goes as hard as you want. And then you go on to, again, Donald Trump proving that anyone could technically become president if they had the influence and the reach, et cetera, enough. And then, of course, Roger being that anyone can extricate themselves from not just the U.S. financial system, but the financial system, that we all don't need to be part of the fiat banking scam. And so it's two things are clear. One thing is that these are people who are threats to the system in some kind of a way that's not that should be covered under, free speech, free expression, all the other things. And unfortunately, it does not seem to be in this case. But also, it just seems like there's an ability for the law to serve a purpose beyond what it's supposed to serve, where the legal system, the so-called justice system, can be used to just destroy people arbitrarily. And it does seem very clear that this is what's taking place right here, that there's no reasonable reason, even if you are a critic of Roger, even if you believe all the laws in the US, every single one on the books is somehow just and fair. If you believe all those, you still should acknowledge that this is an absolute travesty of justice.
Well said, my friend. Well said. Aaron Day, anything you want to add to that?
I would say I've learned so much about Roger. I've learned so much about this case that I didn't know at the very beginning, and I'm convinced that this is completely politically motivated at a deeper level even than just hijacking Bitcoin. Who's going after him? The IRS. What is the IRS? The IRS is the collections agency for the Federal Reserve. What has Roger been doing from day one, since 2010, when he started promoting Bitcoin? His whole message has been the separation of money and state. It's been about ending wars all over the world, spreading freedom and voluntarism around the world. This has been consistent, which is why he switched from Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash, and now recently he's been promoting privacy coins, because he's still on the mission of peer-to-peer digital cash for the world. But I've found and learned other things about Roger. Roger backed WikiLeaks. Roger is probably one of, if not the largest donor to the Free Ross campaign. Roger, and I didn't even know this when I started at Brownstone Institute, Roger was the founding donor to the Brownstone Institute and a founding board member to the Brownstone Institute. So everything the Brownstone Institute has done, fighting mandates, fighting the censorship industrial complex, fighting CBDCs, none of that would have been possible without Roger. And when you look at these things, for instance, Gary Gensler, this SEC chair that we have, he was appointed to the business school at MIT to teach a class on blockchain. And, he was picked for that job by the father of Carolyn Ellison, who was the girlfriend of Sam Bankman-Fried. And what did this guy do? What did Ellison do at MIT? He does behavioral economics and was focusing on things like contact tracing and how you design systems to, increase vaccine uptake. I bring this up only to say that these people are actually very sophisticated at what they're doing. They understand behavioral economics. They understand how to, find influencers. And if you're studying who is going to be one of the largest and most impactful people against CBDCs, it's going to be Roger. And so I think this is completely targeted and completely politically motivated, and it's clearly unconstitutional as well. So that's all I wanted to say about that at this point. But to me, it's critically important that we elevate this and as quickly as possible and do everything that we can. I think Roger should be pardoned on day one with Ross, and we can talk about the specifics of that later. But I think this isn't something that we kick down the line. This is something we need to raise attention around immediately and get impact right away.
I agree, man. And I mean, Roger's been nothing but, I think, supportive to anybody that's aligned with his thinking when it comes to the cryptocurrency space. I had the privilege of being able to interview him 3 times, and in addition to that, I put together a little mini documentary that I recorded about what is voluntarism. And I had Adam Kokesh record something. I had Dmitry Buterin, who is Vitalik's dad. He's a voluntarist. I had him record something. And Roger recorded something, and I used something from Larkin Rose. And if you guys are cool with it, because I was going back through some stuff last night, the video where he's talking about voluntarism, to me, voluntarism is I think very ideal to it sums up who Roger is as an individual. So I want to play that. It's like a 4-minute video. If you guys are cool with that, I want to play it real quick.
Hello, I'm Roger Ver, the founder of Bitcoin.com and the first person in the entire world to start investing in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. But today I want to talk about a thing that's very important to me called voluntarism. So the idea behind voluntarism is that all human interaction should be on a voluntary basis or not at all. And that stems from each person owning their own body and their own life and their own destiny. And so my life and my body belongs to me, and your life and your body belongs to you. And anytime I interact with you, I should be asking you, hey, would you like to do this? Would you like to trade that? Would you like to do something? And so, for example, if I asked you, would you like to go to dinner with me? You can say, yes or no. And if you say no, that's fine, because it's your life. And that's pretty much how every single person and every single business and everybody deals with everybody all the time. Every restaurant and bar and online website, ask the customers, would you like to buy our product? And if the customer says no, that's fine, right? When a man asks a woman out on a date, she has the right to say no. If a company asks someone, would you like to work for us? The potential employee can say no. So that's how everything works all the time.
Except taxes.
And the consent is what really makes things different. So the difference between, making love and being raped is consent, right? When it's consensual, it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. When it's involuntary, it's called rape, and people go to jail for it, right? Having one person pay money to another person, when it's consensual, it's called trade or commerce or buying or selling things. When it's non-consensual, when it's not voluntary, it's called theft, right? If a mugger comes to you on the street and says, give me your money or I'm going to hurt you, that's called theft. And we know that that's wrong, even though the only difference is that one's voluntary and one's not. So the difference between working for a living and being a slave, right? One is voluntary, one's not. So the difference in things being voluntary and involuntary in human relationships are incredibly important. When it's involuntary, it's things like rape and murder and slavery. When it's voluntary, it's things, like making love, having a job, or, whatever the other one was, my example there. And so when it's voluntary, everybody knows it's just fine. So imagine how mad people would be if Starbucks, rather than telling everybody, hey, would you like to buy our coffee? We would like you to buy it. And instead of telling everybody that you can say no, Starbucks says, if you don't buy our coffee, we're going to come and, steal your car or take your house or lock you in a cage if you don't buy Starbucks coffee every day. People would be furious at Starbucks. Yet that's the exact thing that government does, right? They tell everybody all the time, hey, you have to buy this government product, and if you don't, we'll throw you in jail, right? Or we'll take your stuff anyhow. Yet somehow people seem to think that it's okay when government does it, whereas if a private entity did that, they would be furious over it. And I think the real answer is that it's not okay when government does it. It's just that people have been brainwashed from a very young age into thinking that it's okay when government does it, because they go to the government schools where they teach everybody from a young age that everything the government does is just fine. So anyhow, I think people should stop and take a look around the world and ask themselves, is what's going on voluntary, right? The military draft is another example, right? The draft, everybody's taught from a young age, is a good thing, but if you stop and think about what it is, it's the moral equivalent of kidnapping and slavery. And we all know kidnapping and slavery is wrong because it's involuntary, right? The draft is morally wrong because it's involuntary as well. And just because they do it under the guise of patriotism with flags and, fancy costumes and this sort of thing, it doesn't make it okay. So anyhow, I'd love to see more people around the world stop and consider, is this a voluntary human interaction? And if the answer is no, it's probably not necessary and probably should be condemned. So anyhow, just wanted to share that information for you guys. I guess I'll see you some other time soon. Check out Bitcoin Cash if you like the ideas of voluntarism or cryptocurrencies in general. That's why I've been involved in this so long, because I want to spread the ideas of voluntarism and free markets, because they make a world a better place for everybody. And the most excited about Bitcoin Cash because I think it has the best chance out of all the cryptocurrencies out there to bring more voluntarism and free trade and free markets to the world. But give whatever's useful to you in your life a try. I'm not forcing anybody to use Bitcoin Cash. I'm asking people and inviting them to, just like Starbucks. So thank you all so much. See you next time.
And the really cool thing about that is, I asked Roger, hey, would you do this? And he did it. No questions asked, didn't ask for anything in return. So, I know time is our most valuable asset, and I really appreciate everything that Roger's done, which is why I wanted to try to bring some attention to this entire subject matter that's not getting the attention it deserves. The cryptocurrency news space isn't covering this like it deserves. I mean, this should be something the entire community of throughout all the different tribes of maximalism should be uniting for causes like this. And we're not seeing that happen. And it just shows kind of the direction of where we're headed in crypto, the people that are coming into crypto. And I like to think of you two as like right there fighting with me on the front lines, like trying to keep this whole movement of why cryptocurrency was created, the whole ideals of what Roger has been promoting Another thing too, man, Roger said in that, because in the first interview I did with him, I wanted to make sure he clarified how to pronounce his name. Now there was something wrong with my microphone and I ended up sounding a little bit lower, but I went through and asked him, it's like a 30-second clip of explaining how to say his last name, because the first person in that video we played earlier mispronounced the name. It's Veer, and some people call him Ver, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Is it Ver or Veer?
Yeah, so it used to be Veer, and then everybody would say Ver all the time. So now I say Ver sometimes too. So
but is it
one is fine.
Is it Veer though?
It used to be. It definitely used to be Veer.
So when you were born and your family's name is Veer.
Yeah, everybody used to say Veer within the family, and then everyone else, when they'd read the name, would say Ver. But so Ver is kind of starting to become Ver at this point. So
I'm just gonna go.
I thought it was funny. I ended up sounding like some Buffalo Bills shit going, first ocean in Nebraska, but so hey, real quick, I want to pull up on screen the website for this free Roger coin. I'll make sure I got it pulled up. And I'll explain what I want to do with the giveaway. I'm just going to explain it one time, and it's pretty simple. If you guys are interested in participating, 5 winners will get 1 million of the free Roger coin. You can go to freeroger.fun. You can find all their socials. But the way it'll work is the first 5 people to email me, and I'll take a screenshot to show this, but the first 5 people to email me 2 screenshots and your Solana address to ricecrypto@gmail.com. So again, first 5 people, email ricecrypto@gmail.com, 2 screenshots and your Solana address. Screenshot number 1 should be the petition being signed. Screenshot number 2 being subscribed to Rice Crypto. And I will send sometime after the live stream. But the first 5 people to email me, and again, I'll take a screenshot to show. Make sure you include your Solana address, both screenshots. If you don't do that and you're in the first 5, I'm just going to not include you. So the first 5 people that actually follow the directions and instructions of emailing ricecrypto@gmail.com, 2 screenshots showing you signed a petition, and the other one showing you're subscribed to Rice Crypto, and include your Solana address. First 5 people win 1 million tokens, and they've got a little value to them. So that's all I'll say. It's not a project I know neither one of you guys are familiar with, so I know you're not vetting the project, but I just wanted to bring it up as something, as another way to support what Roger's doing, because this is somebody who is a friend of Roger's, and they're trying to bring attention and trying to incentivize people as well. So you guys can follow as well on X. I like this whole thing, but don't be an IRS maxi. Free Roger.
Don't be an IRS maxi. Good one.
Another good thing about today, which to me, I think it's clickbait, is, Gary Gensler is saying he's going to step down, but he's not stepping down until January 20th of next year, which basically means he's stepping down right before Trump can fire him. Yep. So I'm not really sure what people are celebrating. It's like he's just trying to save his ass. There's a difference in being fired and quitting.
Yeah. So this kind of does tie back to that whole thing where I think that my honest opinion on the incoming administration is there's a lot that we don't know. And I know that a lot of people had a ton of hope for what happened in 2016. I would consider most of the 2016 onward administration be a little bit of a letdown, just kind of a lot of more of the same in a lot of ways. We had lockdowns and stuff like that during that time too. And so this time I'm very hopeful of better outcomes for a bunch of reasons. And I mean, obviously Free Ross Day 1 is like the big one. That's the number one thing I'm hoping to get out of this. And I was originally hoping to get out of this, I should say. Hopefully freeing Roger would be another thing. The thing is,
it would be Freedom Day, man. I think we would have to call it. We had to mark that as a holiday forever and ever and ever, especially if it's Julian, Edward, Ross, and Roger.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic. I guess my point is, regarding Gensler, I wasn't really 100% confident he'd get out of there. I thought it was more likely than not, but not that much more likely than not, And so this is at least putting a stamp on it that like, yeah, he's going to be gone, which is great.
It's official.
It's the same thing as like, part of me hopes, I mean, a lot of me hopes, but part of me thinks that because of this crazy lawfare stuff has literally affected the person who's getting the reins of power in a couple months here, you'd think that a lot of this kind of stuff, like the persecution of Roger, there's a chance that it goes away anyway. But I'm not sitting around hoping for anything. Like we have to do everything we can do. And the same thing. Yes.
I may have got my wish.
Almost.
We're like less than $200 away. That would make today just
$1,200, right?
Yeah, 1,000.
Yeah, I thought I saw 99. My brain is like programming 99 right there. It's like I just tricked myself.
Well, as soon as they got Roger freed, I'm sure it'll pass 100K.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Bitcoin Cash should go up. That'd be nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing is I think that in the 2016 era, a lot of people joined. I kind of feel like it was more like Trump just doing a cult of personality around himself and just getting in there, winning, and just figure it out later. And that's why a lot of like the inertia, the swamp has inertia, and the swamp kind of got back in. This time it seems like the team around him is handpicked, but not by him, but by themselves. Like people saying, like, look, I want to be part of this. I want to move this forward. And I think it's very telling what Elon Musk said on one of these interviews he did. I think it was Tucker Carlson, where he was joking a little bit, but basically just saying that if Trump doesn't win, he's screwed. He just says, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? And I mean, that's sounds flippant. And some people criticize him for being so flippant in that case, but it's not flippant. It's the reality of what's going on with all of this. And so hopefully someone with that appreciation for things, because honestly, he was poised to be next. Like once you have significant power and wealth and use it in the service of freedom, you don't buy into this. They can't have rogue elements like that because, obviously it seems like they're right. Right? Is from their perspective of maintaining power because they let this, they failed to extinguish Trump and they didn't really see Elon Musk's coming at him the way things happened. And it already cost them a significant chunk of power probably. And so it seems like that's like the MO of like, this is what you do. You got to squash out the powerful figures, the big fish who are a threat to your power. And, Roger was just that one big figure that could have done that. That was in the process of doing that. And so maybe I have some hope that the incoming administration actively tries to make sure all this is stopped. But at the same time, I don't have faith in government. Let's just be very clear about that. I don't have faith in government. And power grid sees nothing without a demand. And we got to demand the hell out of making sure Roger stays a free man.
Well, it's also unfortunate. I mean, I how many times do we see politicians go back on things that they promise?
Especially the one we're talking about.
The Ross one is a big. I mean, we're not even getting it. The Ross one is something that I'm not sure how the rest of the federal government is going to feel in regards to Trump, the pressure. Because I mean, just to give you an example of that, Trump promised to release all the information on the JFK situation, and then the city looked at it and he's like, "No, can't do that. It's too much for the people." Or whatever excuse it might be. And that's, we just can't trust politicians. That's the one thing. And I'm glad you said that. I did get suckered into voting this year. I voted for Trump, and I'm going to be resending my vote now and getting all my stuff for my status correction worked out as far as what I do with that. But yeah, I got sucked into it, and I'm hoping I didn't make the wrong decision. I'm hoping that this is going to be good for not only crypto, the economy, but America. And I like to see the country thrive in a point where it looks like we are on the brink of
bad things,
crazy economic turmoil, crisis. Yeah. And I'll deal with the financial space. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And hopefully we can come together the right way. But this is a very important topic. So again, I encourage people to make sure they're signing this petition and make sure you're for the giveaway for the 5 winners for 1 million free Roger coins. If you didn't hear, rewind back and go back and email me. The first 5 people will win. Aaron, you got anything you want to add, man?
I mean, I endorse Trump after being a very vocal critic and having never supported him. But I want to be very clear about it, specifically because of this pardon issue, only because of this pardon issue. I mean, I'm a big fan of exiting and building. I mean, obviously Joel is too, but we live on alternative assets, right? We try to teach other people how to live on alternative assets, how to exit the system. And there's a lot of great stuff being done in terms of network states and people working on things in addition to alternative currencies, alternative governance structures. And I'm really excited about that. And I do think that there's a reason. I do think that Trump might follow through with this. And in Roger's case, there are so many parallels between Trump and Roger. Trump has been audited several times and harassed repeatedly by the IRS. Trump has had his attorney-client privilege breached as well with multiple attorneys. And so I actually think he'll be somewhat sympathetic in this regard, and all of those were politically motivated against Trump. So I think to the extent that we can elevate this and get the word out there, it's just a matter of getting it in front of him. And there's a lot going on. I mean, in addition to this website and everything else, there's stuff going on behind the scenes and trying to get letters in support of pardoning him. The Libertarian Party has been supportive of this, and the chair, Angela, has done a great job. I will say, with all of the flack and everything else, to be honest, if Ross's sentence gets commuted and then, potentially more, that's more than the Libertarian Party has done in my entire life. And I think we have to be honest about the fact that is absolutely true. And so she's great. And I've enjoyed actually talking to her as well. So I do think that there's something, but I want to, on the flip side to this, I don't think there's any fixing. Here's what my concern is this. As the Brownson Institute reported, which isn't a surprise to anybody here, the United States has been in a recession since 2022. We are still in a recession. Trump inherited a bad economy. All of the asset classes are breaking and popping at once. What I think is going to happen is Elon and Vivek are going to have not the success that they think because of all of the roadblocks and everything that's going to be put up. And when everything collapses, capitalism and austerity will be blamed, and it will give a clear path for technocracy to be pushed in. That is my honest concern about what's going to happen. And my other concern, and it's like this with CBDCs, is that people are going to be complacent because Trump said he was going to do this, or they think Elon and Vivek are going to fix it, and therefore they stop looking for alternatives and stop doing things for themselves. That's the biggest risk of this whole thing, in my opinion. I think maybe they've bought us time, but the time is only useful if we use it.
Yes. Something else I want to add too, I was thinking about while you guys are both talking, is that if it seems like, and I could be wrong, that a lot of the Bitcoiners, so-called Bitcoiners that are around Donald Trump and his camp would be like your Viveks, your RFK Jr., people like that in that sense. And they've all spoken at the Bitcoin conference. And there's different camps of Bitcoiners. So I don't think a lot of those people are, I would put them in a category of small blockers. And I would say that they're not pro Roger. So I'm not sure how much influence those people are going to have, which is the reason why I'm encouraging people to make sure that they're getting involved with this entire campaign.
It's important for Bitcoin maxis to understand that whether you like Roger or not, if Roger loses, they are the biggest losers in all of this. So out of self-interest, I mean, again, I actually think I coined that phrase, don't be an IRS maxi, because I've been engaging with Bitcoin maxis on X. And my response is, I don't care how much you don't like Roger, out of your own self-interest, understand if he loses, they're literally coming after you. And there are some people that have got, like Tone Bays, who Roger has had a series of debates with, battling on the big block versus small block side, came out in support of Roger. And there are other people that I've talked to that are saying, hey, listen, we're willing to put this behind, because at least let's acknowledge that the IRS is a common enemy here. But that's not everyone. There are some people, and it's really disgusting to see people say, oh, I want to see Roger in a cage. I mean, it is against their own self-interest, but it's also a horrible Like, how far do you veer from the original white paper?
How far do you veer?
Vision? Yeah, how do you veer?
Did you do that on purpose?
I did not do that on purpose.
That was a good one, though.
Here we
Like,
are.
now it's become like a completely new meaning, but we can all veer away from the system.
Yes.
Yeah, I have seen, to their credit, a lot of the angry, toxic Bitcoin maximalist kind of people. When Roger was originally had these problems recently, come out and support. There was a few, like I noticed the people who were ungracious way more, and including, the evil Max Kaiser. I mean, he's even right now he's been digging in on that stuff, and he literally works for a relatively totalitarian government. So, I mean, I don't know what more you could say about that. But not to bash Max more with this time, but basically, I do think that anyone who understands the sovereignty angle of crypto at all, of any crypto at all, understands that Roger needs to be free, and that he did more for the space than just about anyone at this point, other than maybe Satoshi himself.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Let me pull back up his website, because his website shows a little bit more where I was showing earlier, like some of the things that he's done with investments and stuff. But before I do that, just in his bio, there's information about how he donated money to the Foundation for Economic Education. That was $1 million, $250,000 to anti-drug war causes, $100,000 to antiwar.com, to Liberland and the Freedom Fund. So he's done a lot to help in a lot of other ways. And just to show some of the companies from a biotech investment side, and by the way, on that front, that isn't even a fraction of what he's actually done. That doesn't even include, but again, people don't know that. And part of what I'm trying to do is, as I'm learning more, is I'm trying to get some of these people to go on the record to explain this, because if we let the DOJ and the FBI, tell the story, because as you said, mainstream media isn't picking this up, then they're just going to make him out to be some crypto bro, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Agreed. These are the fintech companies. He did, obviously, Bitcoin.com, BitPay, blockchain.com, Kraken. Elixir is a project that has something to do with David Chaum. Ripple, he was an investor in Ripple. Purse, Grayscale, Galaxy. So, I mean, he's been around the block. These are other investments that he's had. So, he's had a long history in the space. And then he's not even mentioning the fact of he personally, along with like Max Kaiser, those two individuals, I think, have given away, that I know of publicly, given away more Bitcoin to promote Bitcoin than anybody else.
Yeah, but a dubious association with each other, though.
Yeah, but it's ironic that those are the two, but they both were like that. Roger and Max. Max had given it to, I've heard many stories, and the same thing with Roger. And then I had the fortunate pleasure of having him send me Bitcoin Cash directly during an interview. So that was pretty cool. He's always been a giving person, and I think it's time for us to give back. And, that's why I really wanted to do this video with the two of you guys, which I appreciate you making time to do this. Aaron, I appreciate you pushing this thing so hard, man. I really do. We needed this.
Well, let's hope we get it across the finish line, and I think we can. I think and again, I hope everybody listening to this. I know a lot of people listen to podcasts and they're passive. It's amazing how small the percentage of people that listen is that actually.
So people are lazy. They don't comment on videos. They don't smash the like button. They don't repost the videos on X. They don't do any of the stuff that you ask. That's free to support your content creators. But whatever.
But here's the thing. To me, like, Lynn Ulbricht is the model for this. Right. And part of what got Ross over the finish line, or at least to where he is, hopefully over the finish line, is the 600,000 people that signed the petition. It took 10 years to do that, but that was actually a big factor in this, because Trump looks at stuff. It's like, okay, what's the vibe? What's kind of the public opinion angle of this? And the fact that 600,000 people signed made a huge difference. So, some people are like, oh, well, I'm not going to sign this. What difference does it make? It actually really does make a difference. So if everybody that's been been impacted, anybody that's benefited from crypto, anybody that thinks WikiLeaks is a good idea, or even supporting Ross, everybody that supports Ross should support Roger because Roger supported Ross. Anybody that supported anything the Brownstone Institute has done or any of these other projects, I mean, if all of those people were made aware of it and signed, then, you know, we'd be at Ross levels, and that would really be impactful, and that would actually help improve his odds. So anything that we can do to just get the truth out. I mean, the thing about this is just all a matter of letting people know the truth about what his impact has been. It really will make a difference. And I will say, we're trying to schedule an event. We had this Enemies of the State event that Dan O'Neill put together. If you guys know Dan, who's a great guy, love Dan. You know, he's been great at connecting people and putting together these events. We're trying to put together one called Unlocking Freedom, that's going to be about Roger and Ross and Snowden and Assange a couple of days before the inauguration in DC. So we're trying to nail down the venue, but we want to like make this one big event. So everything that we're doing between now and then leads to this event in DC, so that we can keep the pressure up and we can keep this. In fact, if we can, I'm going to try to book it at Trump's hotel. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that or not in DC, but
inauguration week.
Inauguration week. I'm not saying that, you know, it could be tough, but nevertheless, it really does help, and it makes a big difference. And
what
again,
about
from
that
my
pizza place, what about that pizza place in DC?
Yeah, or Comet Pizza. I don't think so.
Pizza. Let's do it there. Let's do it in the basement.
Nah. I mean, look, I hate DC, so, but it's worth it.
I had to. I just thought it was funny, man. I'm trying to make some jokes out of this serious conversation here.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, signatures do matter, and it definitely shows that people care. So you can see where we're at with the signatures. We would definitely encourage you, if you have not signed, go to freerogernow.org, sign, and make sure you share this out with other people, especially people that you know that are in the cryptocurrency space. If you care about crypto, we need to all come together and sign this petition. I have, and we're doing this video to encourage you to. Real quick.
And DM people that you know that would sign it, because actually it's hard to get. External links don't go anywhere, so it actually takes old-fashioned contacting people you know directly. Otherwise, everything's passive and nobody does anything. It's very unfortunate.
I know, and that's too why I wanted to do this little giveaway. They sent me 5 million tokens to give away for the free Roger coin. So I'll repeat one more time what you guys can do to win. So the first 5 people to email me 2 screenshots and your Solana address to risecrypto@gmail.com win 1 million free Roger coin. That's going to be 5 million total to the first 5 people to email 2 screenshots, your Solana address to risecrypto@gmail.com. Screenshot number 1, petition being signed. Screenshot number 2, subscribe to Rice Crypto, and I will send that to the live stream. I will take screenshots showing the first 5 people that followed the instructions to win themselves some free Roger coins. That's the last I want to say of that. But I will say, I can pull it up here in a minute. The last person that did an interview that I know with Roger was Joel. I was scheduled to do one with him, but he wanted me to read the book because I was one of the first people to get the book, not do the interview before the book had come out. So I had read the book and then was trying to reach out to schedule an interview. He was traveling. He was like in Singapore, Dubai. That might be reversed. And then went to Spain and got arrested. And so the interview hasn't happened. But I definitely encourage people. It was 7 months ago. I'm going to pull it up on screen so you guys can see it. But Joël Valenzuela's interview with Roger, and he's got several on there you guys can check out, but that's the most recent interview, and I think it's a great interview that kind of introduced me to Zano. How does the Zano team pronounce it? Is Zano or Zano? Doesn't matter.
Or Zeno?
I think it's Zano. I actually started saying it differently because AI would transcribe it as Zeno. So I'm actually not. I'm not. I've heard it pronounced different ways.
I wasn't sure if it was Zano or Zano. I didn't get Zeno. No, I didn't get Zeno at all. It's not. I'm trying. I'm in the middle of watching Alien Romulus and the Xenomorphs. It's an awful movie so far, so I encourage people not to watch it. Don't waste your time. But this is an interview you guys can check out instead. the Roger Ver interview over on Digital Cash Network, and you can make sure you're subscribed while you're at it. And
yeah,
in addition to that, make sure you're following Joel over on the X. If you guys aren't already at the Desert Links, make sure you're following Aaron Day's YouTube channel. He's on Rumble as well at the Aaron Day Show. And make sure you're following Aaron on the X at Aaron R. Day. If you guys are watching on Aaron's side, make sure you're following my X account at RiceTVX. Make sure you subscribe to all of my channels and all that stuff. Make sure you guys are taking an opportunity and signing this petition, sharing it out with other crypto people, other freedom people that you think would be interested in supporting this campaign, because the more signatures we get, the more attention we can bring to the project, and the more effective this entire campaign can be. Together, we need to make a stand. When enough people take a stand, absolutely nothing can stand against the people. So stand with and for Roger Ver. Sign the petition. Be greatly appreciated. You guys have anything you want to add, man, before we do wrap up today's stream?
Yeah, just some personal stuff on Roger. I've known him pretty decently over the years. Just obviously his legend precedes him. And then I, asked for an interview many years ago, got one, and since we've gotten along quite well, I did meet him in Zurich one time where I was there for a conference. He happened to be there for some meetup, and then he got time out of his way to meet with me and everything. It's always been, I've gotten his perspective on crypto over the years, and sometimes he gets very blinders on as far as eyes on the prize, and sometimes that makes people sort of think that he's kind of a little bit of a blowhard or something, but he's a very genuine, nice person who's also very, I would say, intellectually honest and intellectually humble as well. Because sometimes when you're very passionate, you can come off as arrogant. And he's anything but that. He's very humble and is willing to admit he was wrong on things, is willing to change his mind, presented with new information, and is willing to, avoid a lot of these logical fallacies and, attacking people and things like that. And it's definitely someone who cares a whole lot. And if anyone could say if anyone could say anything negative about it, it would be more about sometimes he trusts people a lot. Sometimes he gives people the benefit of the doubt more than maybe he should have, but he's never, you never fault him for not being an honest, caring, trusting person who really cares about the world and really cares about making it a freer, better place. And he's an unstoppable machine in that way too. It's not like any of us who've been in the greater freedom movement for a long time. I mean, I've been involved in some sort of liberty something for well over 20 years, and sometimes it gets exhausting. There's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of ungrateful people, there's a lot of toxicity to deal with. There's just a lot of everything. It's like being a celebrity or being in politics, directly, running for office, or whoever knows how many. It's a lot. And for someone like him to just be in the fight from, longer than any of us basically, and with his intensity that no one else is, it's something pretty incredible that he almost seemed like he was kind of retired to a certain extent when, after the whole Bitcoin Cash struggle against Bitcoin type era sort of started to get quiet, the block size war aftermath got a little bit more quiet. He kind of took a little bit of a sabbatical for a while. Wasn't really as pop as on X as much, for example. And then he just came back with hijacking Bitcoin with a vengeance right then. And that might be the whole investigation and everything else. Maybe that kind of died down a little bit because the impression was that he was gonna take a back seat maybe, but then no, right back at it. And who knows? But
I think the last time I interviewed him was, early 2020, right at the beginning of the COVID stuff. And he was locked down on St. Kitts for a while. And
I remember
that's around the same time that he kind of took a sabbatical from the internet. He was working on other projects, but he wasn't really doing interviews or anything like that. And then, like you said, then it was just maybe eight months ago, just kind of came back out of nowhere. But he was in a fight for a long time, but he did, I feel take a rest, which we all need to do. It's very healthy. It's for your mental health, for your mind, your body, your soul. It's It's one of the best things that we could do for ourselves.
And a lot of people sort of misconstrue him as, first off, they kind of misconstrue him as the godfather of the big blocker movement during the block size wars. And he was not one of the original big blocker people. He was much more of a fence sitter, such a mean thing to say. He definitely was that, but he was much more of a, I don't really know which is the best approach, but we should all just get along and do what's best. And over time, when it became clear which side was working on human freedom, and which one was using dirty tactics and stuff, then he became the figurehead, and then kind of just became the symbol of, the anti small block camp, sort of, and kind of like took all that on himself, where everyone else, now it's just like he's the guy. And then one of my interviews, in fact, you can scroll down the channel on my channel and find him. I did talk to him at one point where it was after Bitcoin Cash split off.
Yeah, because what's the guy's name? Amari
Sachet.
He's the original guy who did the Bitcoin Cash fork as well, and then fork Bitcoin Cash, which I think now is eCash.
Yeah, and he's still doing.
And I interviewed him.
Good things in his own way, but I remember I interviewed Roger after the split, and Roger was not even a Bitcoin Cash fan yet. He just was like, well, they split off, and I don't know, and then now people pretend like he created it, and just because he supports causes he believes it so wholeheartedly.
It was the crypto
people pin it on him, like, you're the one that did this. But if anything, he's coming to other people's defense a lot. He's coming out and supporting the cause. He's not a grifter starting his own things, that, all that mischaracterization. Probably the single most maligned person in all of crypto, and most unfairly maligned. And there's a definite reason for that,
Well, I feel like there's an attack
on apple cart upsetter sometimes, Well,
the crypto media is just like the mainstream media, and it's controlled by a lot of the similar type interest, and they put out a certain narrative about certain individuals. And that's how the Sam Bankman-Fried kind of got painted as something good for crypto. And then people, like, whether you like these individuals or not, Richard Hart, he was somebody that's been kind of crucified in a lot of different ways. Again, whether you like him or not. Who was the other one I was just going to mention? It'll come back to me. But it was the crypto media that turned what we called Bitcoin Jesus, or what most people knew Roger Ver as Bitcoin Jesus, to calling him Bitcoin Judas.
Which is pretty disgusting if you think about it.
It is. And a lot of people did put the blame of the fork on him. And it was like, nothing about, that's another thing that people don't understand, and it's hard for people to even try to put their mind around it, is that you think one way and you find something that goes along with that thought process, then you realize there's something wrong with that, and that thing changes, and then you realize something else is more aligned, and you just start supporting what's more aligned with what you were starting to promote from the very get-go. And it's like nothing about Roger has changed. It was Bitcoin that changed. And I think that book is a great example of Roger being able to write a book with, I forget the co-author's name.
Steve Patterson. Steve Patterson, who's a great guy. Also,
shout out to him. Yeah, we talked about doing interviews, Steve Patterson, but the book does a great job of, like, not putting this in the eyes of Rogers. It's more trying to kind of give, like, a very logical, open-minded way of explaining it without kind of interjecting emotion per se. And I think that was done very well. Roger has handled himself very well, pretty much. He's always usually calm. I think maybe the martial arts stuff, the jujitsu, helps with some of that. The only, I kind of find it more funny than anything, is the moment he got angry about the Bcash thing and did the infamous flipping the bird, and I think he ended his stream at that point. But
yeah, it's the ironic thing about that is that was John Carvalho, who at the time I think was the CTO or something like that of Bitrefill, and then he moved on to do his own Lightning Network based company. In recent years, like in the past year or so, he's come out and expressed a lot of, I would call him like an 70% Roger Ver and 80%. Like, as far as like the principles of decentralization, peer-to-peer electronic cash, the way a lot of the Lightning world and the Bitcoin Maximalist world is moving towards custodians in bad ways. And it's not all the way that, like, I think he did apologize to Roger at one point for that. But more importantly, it's just like Roger was there all along, and a lot of people who I would consider very smart and principled weren't. They took time to get there, and it just kind of speaks to just how laser focused and principled Roger has been to a fault. Like, not just for the most part, but just definitely like a North Star. And so it's one of those litmus test kind of things where in the crypto space, anyone who has a net negative opinion of Roger, I would consider to either be misinformed, like just not educated at all, or a person I am very deeply skeptical of. It's like, disagree with him entirely, but that's the North Star for, are you cool? Are you and I on the same team in crypto? Is as far as like human sovereignty is, do you have respect for Roger or not?
Yeah, because you definitely have people, I think, that are kind of coming more from that TradFi world that wouldn't be on that side. Aaron, what are your final thoughts for today's video and such?
Well, I agree with what he just said, and I would say he is the most consistently principled person that I know. And having been in the kind of the liberty activist space also for a couple of decades, it's really rare. I mean, it's very rare for people to remain principled, whether it's on the political side or the crypto side. We've seen so many people that started out and sounded like they were ideologically sound, and they get lured into the fiat trap. That's happened over and over again, and it literally, I can't find another person that has been more consistent. And it's not even about Bitcoin. Like, the more I've learned about him, it's like he was an early investor in Zcash. He was an early investor in Monero. He's an early investor in Zeno. He just wants peer-to-peer digital cash and freedom.
Even Ripple. That shows his diversity and how forward thinking he was, and then not just enacting in one way, because Ripple XRP is a centralized company and such. So I mean, it shows that he understood the value of decentralization and centralization when needed.
Well, even when he invested in Ripple, it was before the people that are currently running Ripple. He was like literally the first investor, and the guy that started it hasn't been involved with Ripple for a long time. He ended up starting, I think, Stellar Lumens. But and his thesis of it of the time is, hey, maybe here's a way to have peer-to-peer digital cash without having the environmental impacts of mining. That was the thesis when he made that investment. So he's invested in a whole variety of different things, which is very consistent with a market-based approach. Like, I don't even understand how the Liberty community has got caught up with this idea that there should be only one cryptocurrency. It actually doesn't even make sense to me.
No.
And so, but the other thing is, again, it's the stuff that people don't know about what Roger has supported behind the scenes. And even I'm learning, like, I didn't even realize how involved he was in WikiLeaks or how involved he was in Ross, and other people that I can't even talk about yet, but I hope come forward. Like, literally, if there was somebody being oppressed by government on an issue where there's a grave injustice and it involves rights and free speech and everything else, Roger has been there silently behind the scenes. And so, and I also echo the sentiments. He's probably the most generous and genuinely nice person that I've met in general, but particularly in this space. And so, anyway, I can't say enough good things. And to me, the most important activism thing is to try to help him at this point in time and make sure he doesn't spend any time at all in a cage. So,
yeah, next time we're on the stream, we'll invite Roger on as a free man.
Well, again, I invited Roger. Roger said no media for me at the moment.
I'm saying as a free man, notice.
Yes.
Once this is all over, we'll have him. This will be over for him.
He did say to me that he is eager to tell the whole world what the IRS is doing the moment that he can.
So I will say this. So I have an opportunity. So that at PorkFest, there are the big tents, the two big tents kind of in the main pit. And I have the opportunity to sponsor one of those. And I want to get a bunch of sponsors together, not just me, but a bunch of sponsors to focus on privacy and a whole variety of different things. But my vision for this is that we will see Ross and Roger and Ian at PorkFest. Like, I really think we can make that happen. So if anybody wants to help in that endeavor, let me know.
Didn't Roger have something to do with the creation of PorcFest? Or because you guys, that's in New Hampshire,
I
correct?
don't think so. I think that he just attended.
Does he own the campground?
No, that's a different Roger.
Okay.
Roger's Campground is what it's called. I don't think even Roger owns Roger's Campground, Roger, but it was just called that. He has attended before, and he was big into the Free State movement, but he's basically stayed out of the U.S. almost entirely since he renounced his citizenship. He's actually told me that. He says as soon as New Hampshire declares independence, he'll be the first one back. So, that's I don't know if the way things are accelerating in the world, maybe I shouldn't call that a pie in the sky kind of a thing, but it's definitely not the next step. The next step is to free this guy, get rid of some of the nonsense, craziest parts.
Just abolish the IRS. If we
go
just
back to be a relatively free country before we get maximum.
If we abolish the IRS, then then who is there to bring a lawsuit?
Yeah,
who would the defendant be?
Yeah, and on it,
maybe
let me say the most awful thing. I agree with that, and let me say the most awful thing you'll probably hear me say on this stream of let me appeal to statists for a second here. I think that there's
pretend to be a statist. Is that what you said?
I'm making the statist case for abolishing the IRS.
Okay,
right? Because not the evil monster case. There's levels of how bad you can get, but basically, there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure, small business people, just random people who there's a lot of non-payment of all the amount of taxes that maybe they think they should be paying, whether it's through mistakes, whether it's through whatever. There's all kinds of nonsense. There's all kinds of overhead caused to try to collect and all this kind of stuff. The government would be more efficient and probably have more money if no one had to figure out how the hell much they owed. If they could just pay, here's your bill, pay it, and that's it. And it's not that what we're talking about today, the excuse for going after this guy is not, oh, he didn't pay enough. It's there was a mistake in the process of it. It's not, here's the bill. It's
right.
Clear,
it wasn't something
day.
that was done.
You didn't pay this
purpose.
bill. It's just this weird wishy-washy nonsense that I think that benefits a lot of the most nefarious people in our society. On both people, extra government, the extra government criminals and the government criminals. It benefits a lot of criminals. So yeah, abolish the IRS, free Roger.
If the citizens could realize that those who are working and earning a paycheck are basically working 3 to 4 months for the IRS, 3 to 4 months of your entire pay, 100% goes to the IRS on average, some more. So that alone, considering where we are and how people are struggling with the prices because of inflation, if they were able to recoup 3 to 4 months salary, that would make a huge difference in a lot of people's lives. I know this is off topic, but it's the IRS. And again, abolish the IRS. Aaron, anything else before we do end up in today's stream? Again, thanks for joining.
No, I would just say freerogernow.org and spread the word as quickly as you can.
All right, my friend. Well, gentlemen, I do appreciate you guys joining me. I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please share this out. Please sign the petition. Make sure you subscribe to all of our channels. My channel is obviously Rise Crypto. We have Digital Cash Network with Joël Valenzuela, and we have the Aaron Day Show. Hey, Aaron, why did you call it the Aaron Day Show? Is your name actually,
Aaron?
Are you actually
better than
Aaron?
the Aaron Knight Show?
Yeah, I am. I go on to David Knight show sometimes, and so he always calls it night and day. So there you go.
I like day and night because it phonetically and alphabetically sounds better. But okay, I guess if he wants to be first, that's fine. That's fine. All right. Well, again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. If you have not smashed that like button, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're watching on either mine or Aaron's X account, those reposts would be greatly appreciated. Please take that opportunity. Again, sign the petition, freerogernow.org. Share it out with other people, other freedom-minded, crypto-minded people that may not know about this. Bring it to their attention. It would be greatly appreciated. Before we wrap things up, I encourage you, as always, to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in this matrix. Be the change you want to see in this world. question everything, especially today. And especially today, know yourself. Until next time.
Rice TVX, the mic's live wire. American Pitbull, real gold buyer. Sound money advocate, rights defender. In the crypto arena, he's the top contender. From the gritty streets of the digital age, Rice lays wisdom, chapter and page. Silver gold, he stores only the bold. Land, life, and liberty, these values hold. Constitution, deep dive, knowledge revival. Navigate the system, critical for survival. Rice engraved like inscriptions on metal. Pitbull in the game, lead foot on the pedal. Land acquirer, a strategic mind. In the fight for freedom, he's frontline. Educator on rights, the law he'll explain. Chris Rice, the Pitbull, breaking the chain. I'm gonna go in the arena where truths collide. Rice TVX, the certified guide. Silver and gold, land and rights. American Pitbull in the freedom fights. In a world of chaos, he's the calm in the storm. Teaching the masses, ready to inform. Keys to crypto, rights we cherish. His wisdom lights paths that others perish. Guardian of wealth, from digital to ancient. His legacy crafted, fearless and patient.
I want to tell you about my own story about being tortured in federal prison in the United States.
Roger Ver, unfortunately today he got arrested.
Free Roger.
Free Roger.
The real reason that I actually went to prison is because I was busy saying things like the things that I'm going to say in this video. Taxation is theft and war is mass murder, funded by theft.
Roger, Bitcoin Jesus himself, was a true pioneer.
Here you've got one of the most independent people in the world preaching and teaching people to individually empower themselves around the
He's
globe.
been very supportive of the work we do.
He's also an inspiration to a lot of people around the globe.
I couldn't express any more of how great of a person he was.
In 2014, Roger Ver left the United States. America apparently is the land of the free. You should be free to just leave.
The United States government considers you to be their property.
Roger paid millions of dollars to the United States government, and they're saying now that it's not enough.
You read the quotes from his lawyer, it's like, this is the evidence of someone trying to comply with the law.
He did everything according to the book. Nobody's ever gone to jail for that, ever.
The DOJ is actually using the Bitcoin Jesus term. They're literally going to crucify Bitcoin Jesus.
Just because some people get together and write down words on a piece of paper and call it a law, that doesn't alter morality one bit.
They're using the Trump case as a template for how they can go after any dissident.
This is very scary, frankly, 10 years later. Government and central banks do not want this story out there.
The truth doesn't bend to whether or not we like it being the truth or not.
Roger's a good guy, and we all owe him a lot. It's really sad.
To say that he is instrumental in Bitcoin would be a radical understatement.
He's really believed in Bitcoin for the reasons that people should believe in Bitcoin.
It disgusts me from my core when I see government murdering people around the world. And Bitcoin has the power to undermine everything they're doing to people around the world.
Is it a coincidence? The only guy that's ever been criminally prosecuted on an exit tax interpretation is the guy that was exposing the intelligence community's attempts to infiltrate the Bitcoin movement.
There's nothing we can do to change the past, but we can work together to change the future.
From this moment forward, I'm on the same side as Roger.
Free Roger.
Free Roger.
Free Roger.
It's as crazy a case as you can possibly imagine.